Tsar Mikhail Romanov. Yes, they call him Romanov, but we can't prove he was a Romanov, but of Tsar Mikhail, or who they call Mikhail Romanov. And his helmet of this king also has Arabic written all over it. Now let me send you in Eastern Europe, if you're in Serbia especially, Alexander Nevsky is so big there. Yes, or in Bulgaria, Alexander Nevsky Church. Yes, Alexander Nevsky is so big, like, let's say, St. George is big in for England. Yes, and let me send you the helmet of Alexander Nevsky. Yes, there is no evidence of a Tatar civilization that was not Muslim. This helmet was worn by Ivan the Terrible, and they're telling us Ivan the Terrible killed Muslims. Yeah, because, you know, the helmets get passed on from father to son. I've shown you enough to show you that, you know, I'm not making it up. You can go to the Kremlin Museum, you'll see all this stuff yourself. And then all the armory that's made from gold and silver and everything else of all the kings and the princes of Russia, yeah, they've all got Arabic writing all over them that people can check it online. So anybody who wants to talk about Tartaria, it's almost a joke to even say maybe they were Muslim or maybe they were not. It's a joke to say the Japanese maybe spoke Japanese or not. Yes, they can't even hide it. That's why even in official history, they'll say the Tatars are traditionally Muslims and they had Arabic. You can't hide it. It's because there's too much evidence. Now, the thing is, when we're talking about thousands of swords, yes, and they've all got Arabic, yes, then we got a problem. We have got a problem. So now we're coming back to Japan. So now the thing is, in Japan, I did a lot more research on this because I thought, hey, this is very strange that we've got these Japanese emperors, yeah, and they're calling them shoguns. So then I checked out who called them shogun, yes, and then the thing is, I found that Tokyo City was not called Tokyo. It was called Musashi. Yes, that was the biggest city in the southern islands. Now in the northern islands was the Ainu city, and that was called Isashi. Now the word shi could basically means like Tokyo-shi. Yes, like the city or area of Tokyo. So the Tokyo region was called Musashi, means the region of Musa. Now Musa is the Arabic word for Moses. Now in the north, the major city was Isashi. Now Isa is the Arabic name for Jesus. Now these are the two most famous cities from Japan, from the past. So once again, we've got emperors. There's more. I'm sending you pictures. Yeah. That none of them that they all look like something to do with Arabs. This is was drawn by Alan Manison Mallet. Yes, and he's got a turban on, and we can see it. But now, when we go to school, when we go to university, this is what we found in the historical manuscripts. But the pictures they show us today, and they're saying, no, this is the Emperor of Japan, dear. Have a look at the new picture. And it's a big difference. And then they're telling us that these men were called shogun. But now, parce que beaucoup de personnes, ils comprennent pas français, mais parce que j'ai étudié français un peu, je comprends français un peu, monsieur. Quand je regarde le nom de shogun en français, yes, the name shogun in French was written X-O-G-U-N. Now, the strange thing about X-O-G-U-N, it sounds like shogun today. But then the thing is, in the 17th and 18th century, many people wrote the word Kogun with an X, not with a K. So now, and the G was pronounced Kahan. And that's why it was called Kahan or yes.
Khan.
So now the thing is, I'll write it down for you. So what they did is, in French, they called him Kaugun, and then today they called him ex-shogun, and then today they call him shogun. The pictures are a total forgeries, what they're showing us today. That the paintings we've got today of the Japanese are forgeries. So as you've noticed, the word Khan is the word king in English. So the thing is you know, as you can see, it had something to do with Islam. It had something to do with Islam, and everyone knows that the cities in Japan and the civilizations were wiped out. Yes, and the thing is, if people are going to say, hey, in Japan and Korea, these civilizations have been there for centuries, really? Oh, don't worry. Yes, I'm here to help you, Andreas, and let's see if that has any basis to it at all.
I
Yes,
mean, it
because
seems like, though, if the history is all okay, the difference between the history all being lies and the history being lied about is very extreme. If they're completely brilliant, inventive storytellers, that's a different thing than if they're just changing the history. Changing the history, at least it's a
because
lot.
there is a war going on.
If there,
Everybody knows
well,
there's a
but
war
if,
going
of
on.
course, but if there's a lie, I can look through it. I'm pretty good at looking through fake news and seeing what it is. If it's a completely
Well,
invented story,
you've
it's
seen it
harder.
with your own eyes. We cannot find Ephesus.
Well, if you
St.
go,
Paul
if
went
you
there.
look,
He gave his speeches there. So now we've got to question who is St. Paul. Now we can't find
right.
Celsus Library, the biggest Greek library where they exported books to Alexandria. So how can there be Alexandria without Celsus? It's same like saying that there is no New York and no Washington D.C., but America existed. No, for America to exist, the full history must be there. So the history that they've told us, we cannot find Athens. We cannot find it. And now what's even worse is that South Korea itself. Now the thing is, South Korea and Japan, yes, and the Japanese history, because I'm going to go next door so that people will know this is global. Here is a photograph of the city of Seoul in South Korea today. Now I'm going to send you the same place, yes, the place that you're looking. No, that's not Seoul. I sent you Taipei by accident. Sorry, delete that picture. That's Taipei.
Nice place, but
that's Taipei. No, that's Seoul. I sent you the correct one. That's Seoul in South Korea. Now, let me send you the same place just 100 years ago, and you are going to be totally worried. This is the same place 100 years ago. And they're telling us that the South Koreans have lived in that condition, that those huts are not even permanent, no bricks, that the temporary huts that they had to rebuild them every year at that time. That and then there is another thing to
there's
show
a
that
building. There's a giant Chinese style fort in the back too.
Oh, that was built by the Japanese colonialists, but they're
Right.
going to tell you that that's centuries old. That
Yeah.
what happened is they built that, and then you can find other construction photos of the full place, that there's nothing there in Seoul. And then you will see that the women are wearing these white cloth from the Industrial Revolution. After that, this photograph's from around 100 years ago I've sent you, of the women wearing cloths, and then the wood has been made by machinery and imported there by the British, French, Japanese, Germans, Russians, and all these other people from Hong Kong. That the colonial empires, they're just building this place. And the people had just arrived. They just arrived. Yes, this information is in my book, Tatar City. Now, the point I'm trying to make about the thing is that they've just arrived. It means who was living there before, or did anybody even live there at all before? Now, this sounds like it's not important. It's very important, because, or otherwise we are not going to understand the history of Japan. And another big scam that nobody is talking about is everyone talks about Tataria. What about the last great Tatarian city? Only collapsed in the year 1900, called Tadar City. Today it's changed its name to Beijing. And then they're going to tell you there's all these great Chinese cities and everything throughout China. Yeah, I've been to over 100 cities, maybe 150 cities in China, because they got too many. Now, the full history of China and the full history of Asia is so scary that you can actually check the records, that you can find hardly any Asiatics. That means, the Asian people in Northern Asia 150, 200 years ago. They weren't even there. You can't even find them. I've just sent you a photograph of a city in China called Shijiazhuang. I've been there myself. Now, the scariest thing is, if you look at the same place 100 years ago, if you look at the same place 100 years ago, there's hardly anybody there, and it's a settlement where the colonialists went there, the Europeans went there, and the Europeans even opened a church there, and they opened a train line there, and the people arrived. Now we're finding the same thing throughout China. Now I've sent you Shijiazhuang, but let me just show you two more cities, then you will know we've got a serious problem. This is from my book, Tatar City. Now this city is called Taiwan. Today there's 6 million people there. Yeah, it's half the size of London, and I'm sending you the same place. Let me just send the date to you so that, and then show you why it's worrying. The same place in the year 1900, and it's got 40,000 people. And now the people who brought these people there had something to do with the Jesuits and the British and the French and the European Western Protestant colonialists, because there's a church in the middle of that place, yes, 100 years ago. And then now, if you go to the same city called Taiwan, I've just shown you there's nothing in that city there, yes, apart from a wooden type of central village or something, a few thousand people. Today, there's going to say there's temples and there's castles there, thousands of years old. Now everyone's heard of the Shaolin Temple. You know the Shaolin Temple for Kung Fu and things like that, yes?
It's kind of the Library of Alexandria story again. They've got this Kung Fu temple that everything's been lost from. But from there, they had people that knew how to levitate, right?
I'm glad that you've shown that connection, because let's check out the Shaolin Temple, yes, is near Zhengzhou City.
And it has these giant brick walls, just like everybody else. Wow.
Wait, but now look at Zhengzhou City. Yeah. Today, it's like you could say New York or London. Now, I'm sending you the same place in 1920, and there's hardly anything there, just a few thousand people there. They just arrived, and the middle of that village, yes, everybody's living in these huts made of straw and everything, is, a Jesuit or Protestant church. But now when you go there today, they're going to be telling you, hey, there's ancient temples here, Shaolin, hey, we found these Buddhist monasteries here.
There's a lot of people all of a sudden, though. So what's the plan? You're bringing in on trains foundlings from where? Where are they all being created from?
This is explained in my book, Tatar City. They've totally invented the history of ancient China, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, and the rest of it. Now, the thing is, you will say, why are they doing this? It actually looks like, from the evidence what I can see, it genuinely looks like that a man called Moses, or call him Prophet Moses, because I don't want many Jewish people saying disrespect. Yeah, this Prophet Moses set up a civilization with the Exodus.
I mean, the Egyptian narrative is you've got Ramses is Ramoses.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, well, those temples.
Moses.
Well, let's look at these temples. Half of them aren't there. Right. 150 years ago in the old photographs.
But you have no matter what, you have the story of Moses in every one of these examples, even in Japan and China. So that's pretty amazing that Moses is making his way there.
When you're saying it's in Japan, as I showed you, yes, in Japan. Now the thing is, if anybody wants to change the name of New York, there'd be an outrage. In England, if somebody wants to change the name England, it would probably cause civil war.
Right.
Yes, people will fight. So now the strange thing is, they changed the name of Tokyo. It was originally Musashi. Mm-hmm. And then the thing is, they've changed even the history, that when we look at the historical documents from 200 years ago, the rulers look like Muslim rulers with turbans.
Muslim and Moses, again, with Moses. I mean, Moses everywhere.
Yes, now that you've said that, well done. Yeah. It's because many people have not realized this. The Quran actually says... Yeah, the Quran actually says Moses was a Muslim.
Right.
And it actually says that Moses and Jesus Christ, that they were... that Islam, Muhammad, came and joined Islam. Yes. Yeah. And that he was another leader. Now, the thing is, when people use the word prophet, it becomes a bit difficult. Let's use modern words. Yes, according to the Quran, according to the Bible, it's got a mystical definition of prophet that people can't seem to describe what it is. Right. According to the Quran, it's more simple. A prophet is somebody that God gave him technology, science, history, and morals, and the system of conduct. The Quran gives a different story. Now, for example, in the Quran it says that King Solomon, he received information and technology, and so did King David, for science, for construction, for technology, for mining. This is what the Quran says, that humans on earth, we didn't know anything, and then we were taught this. Yes, and then the people who were prophets were, in the modern sense, professors. Now, the word prophet actually means a professor, but somebody who's divine. So, but this is how the Quran portrays these men, that they were intelligent people. They fought for human rights. According to the Quran, Moses was fighting for freedom from oppression. This is how the Quran portrays Moses. Now, the story in the Western world shows other things. Yes. Now, the thing is, the Quran actually shows some other things as well. Yes. But the thing is, the Quran shows a totally different history of the world. Now, going back to Japan so that we don't get diverted. Yes,
Right.
so the thing is, when you're talking about Moses in Japan, it does not use the name Moses as it's described according to the modern Hebrew language or Latin, but in the Arabic. Okay. Now the thing is, language is a very big topic. Yes, because if you're going to talk about it, because they say that these changes that happened in Japan, they came through Korea, and as I've shown you, something's wrong with the history of Korea, as it looks like the people just arrived there only 100 years ago.
Right,
Yes.
and they worship the moon, right? They have like a folk tradition with a moon goddess or something, which seems very Roman.
But when you look at the photographs of the people who are living there, what sort of tradition do you think people have over there? Now, if you want to actually compare those people today, go to somewhere like, let's say, Venezuela, for example, or to Colombia, and go to some of the villages where people are still living in similar types of houses. Yes,
mud brick.
And then you'll see that they've got no worship system whatsoever. But somebody from the outside will come and say he's showing God or worship to this stick or to this idol.
But they have this idea. They have this idea of weather being important, at least, is it not? I mean, because you have to remember. This is the thing. Okay, this is something I found because of you also. When you were talking about 19 and the importance of 19, looking into the tri-seasonal Egyptian calendar and all this other stuff about calendars around the world, the Hebrew calendar, the Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar. And so it does not synchronize perfectly with the solar calendar, except that they've set it up to do so every 19 years. So the 19-year cycle is the lunar solar elliptical.
Yeah, and Metonic cycle.
Right.
Yes.
So it's interesting that the Metonic cycle is the 19-year cycle, and that this is also something that matters to the Koreans because they're obsessed with the moon and they're using the lunar calendar. The similar also Muslims use the lunar calendar as well.
Okay. Now, the thing is, languages and calendars, those things will need a very long time for them. So the thing is, we focused on many things today, so I think we should just leave it at that. What we'll do is, for the benefit of people, like today I went through a few things from a few comments what viewers have said. So what we'll do is, because, for the advantages of people who joined your channel,